Our next inductee from South Carolina, David Knuckles. He has one of the most stellar competitive careers in East Coast history. And we're going to go kind of along the coast here tonight, but we kind of divide up the East Coast by states, and we have certain representatives of each state who have been outstanding. Wes Lane from Virginia Beach representing Virginia, Dean Randazzo from New Jersey. I mean, these guys were stellar. From South Carolina, we want to recognize that David Knuckles has the most stellar contest career up until modern times. We got Cam out there, Cam Richards doing a great job on the pro side. But let's hear it for David Knuckles and what he accomplished. David first started surfing at 9 years old because he got bored with riding on rafts. And he ended up with an old barge, as he put it, that his sisters had to help him carry it to drag it down onto the beach so he could learn how to surf. Dedicated sisters. Saved up his money. He broke the law. He was literally a criminal there in South Carolina, selling sand dollars on the beach. Yeah, what a criminal. Saved up $165 and bought his first store-bought surfboard, which was a Tom Overland Blue Meanie twin fin. Purchased from the Village Surf Shop. He paid $165 in illegally earned cash. His local surf break was the Sandpiper Hotel and Dunes Club, but he really loved traveling to Hatteras for the events that he competed in and for camping out there in the campground around the campfire. But David, and what I just had a conversation with David, I don't know him well, we chatted a couple times, but this guy's a straight shooter. Not involved with drugs and alcohol. He was in bed early at the campground and dawn patrolling. He was going to win no matter what. So David Knuckles put his nose to the grindstone from the very beginning, surfing as much as possible. His first contest was the Ocean Drive Pier ESA contest. He won that. But the thing is, his mom supported him 110%. How's that? How many parents are out there really pushing for surfing? He worked with his friends. They surfed a lot. They trained. They pushed each other. But something happened when he went to Hawaii. He got to live in Hawaii at Haleiwa. But he was surfing the South Shore one day out at Threes, and right in front of him, Larry Burlman does a carving 360. David Knuckles said, I want to do that. And living in Haleiwa and surfing with the famous Marvin Foster, he dedicated himself to learning the carving 360. And that is so much more difficult than a hand-drag fin-release slide tail 360. And that's what most people were doing. But David Knuckles from South Carolina decided he'd do a carving 360. And when he did it in a competition, he won. And they said, this is the move of the future. David Knuckles worked hard, dedicated. And he was known for riding a David Nuuhiwa fish as he was progressing and growing. And lo and behold, he beat him one year in a competition. David Knuckles, 6-time ESA champion in boys, juniors, and men's division. He was also the U.S. champion in 1979 in juniors, and also represented the U.S. and the world contest team in South Africa in '78, helping the U.S. to a second place finish. He was winner, the first East Coast surfer, maybe the only, if I'm not sure, of the Nancy Caton Award in 1980. He turned pro that year. His first professional win was at the Record Bar Pro in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina in 1982. David, he gives back. He's coaching. He's done coaching and worked with several of the surfers up and coming. And it is my honor to introduce from South Carolina the best surfer, competition-wise, from South Carolina to this date, David Knuckles.
Thank you, thank you. Very kind words. Look, I'm going to make this short. I just have a couple of bullet points I want to touch on. And I want to thank the people that really helped me get here today. Again, I want to, one more time, mention my mother. I did have the best surf mom there is. There's 5 kids in my family, and she was outstanding. I mean, she would take me to every contest. It's just, we've got some great surf moms back where I live, but this lady was phenomenal.
All right, Mom.
Yep. I'd like to thank Dale Schall with Sundancer Surfboards. He really brought me under his wing. We traveled up and down the East Coast. He had a David Knuckles model. He did a lot for me back in the day. And a big shout out to Dale. I want to thank you, Dale, wherever you are. My first team board, I don't know if you noticed the picture, but it was a Heritage surfboard. It was Dan Heritage that pulled me to the side. And it meant a lot. That was my first team board. And when you're asked to be on a team at a young age, I told Brian I was going to mention that tonight because it's important. A big shout out to Jack Crosby and Kelly Rhodes for showing me Hawaii. You know, when you're young, you've got to have somebody take you under your wing, especially on the North Shore. That's a big arena out there. And I was back in the days when PT and Little League Rabbit was living under the bridge, honestly. Those were the days I was there, so I got to see it firsthand. Big shout out to Betty Marsh, huge inspiration to me. Betty used to write me handwritten notes before big competitions, just a word of encouragement. She was always there for me on the beach. Betty was just a very supportive lady, and she went out of her way to make sure that you're not only good in the water, but you got to be good out of the water. And that's what she instilled in me. And my wingman, I know Kelly Richards is in the house, but between the two of us, we've been giving back to these kids. We mentor these kids. We take 20 of them to Puerto Rico, and we sit down and talk to them about girls and drugs and school. And the social pressures on these kids are phenomenal. But we're really trying to give back to the youth, and I think Phil Jackson's doing a great job with Surf Dreams Foundation as well. We're giving back. I got to mention Doc. Doc he took me under his wing as well. I actually flew to Texas as a 12-year-old as a son to that U.S. Championships. Doc was fearless. And I'll just give you one little quick story about Doc. We're in Texas. We're in the room, and Ricky Rasmussen and his posse would come over every night for a rat tail fight. And Doc would just hold his arms up and let him crack him. And then when Doc would hit you with a rat tail, you would know it. And we didn't see Raz after that first night. But I gotta mention Doc, because he was outstanding. He was just unbelievable. You know, I'm young, I'm bussing tables, and I'm trying to drive to Florida. And it's just, you don't have the money back then as a kid. And there was always one guy that would always approach me on the beach, and it was Johnny Futch. He would always ask me, do you have a place to stay? You can park in my driveway. But he was always there for me, and I just wanted to thank Johnny. It meant a lot to me.
Johnny.
Speaking of Johnny Futch, this was a big moment in my life. Johnny and Pat were pulling away from the pack. Pat Mulhern and Johnny, they were surfing faster than us. They were doing things that we weren't doing. And I couldn't compete with that. I just was frustrated with my equipment. And so I reached out to Pete Dooley. I said, Pete, I'm in trouble. I said, Pete, I'm not surfing as fast as these guys, and I need help. Pete goes, I got it figured out. He goes, I'm making this new twin fin, pinched rails, it's a dome deck, and I'm hiding the foam in the stringer. He goes, it's a rocket ship. I said, Pete, can I be on your team? I said, I've got to make a change in life, turn pro, and I need the equipment. Well, lo and behold, Pete pulled me right in, made me boards, and I won a lot of contests on Pete's boards. But I'm very grateful, Pete, for you doing that. It was a game changer in my life. I've got to get a shout out to John Griffin. There's a lot of those contests that I traveled to. I just didn't have the entry fee. I didn't. And I would call John, he'd always answer his phone, and what he said was, David, just get here. And it was never an issue on the beach or whatever, but John carried me on a lot of contests, and I just want to thank him. Hatteras was my apex of my career growing up. I thought it was the best contest on the East Coast. I think Hatteras set the bar back in the day. When you, in '74, if you were there seeing Greg Lewis surfing 12 o'clock on 6 to 8 foot waves, we've never seen somebody taking it straight up. I mean, I was blown away. That level of surfing kind of set the bar with all of us in the years to follow. But when Lewis Graves showed up with that Ocean Avenue team and those team jackets, we knew something was up. And if you see a guy wearing a team jacket around Hatteras, you know he could surf. And that's how, I mean, we learned about Lewis Graves. I mean, we learned about Jackie Grayson real quick. We didn't know who Jackie Grayson was. Got ripped. My last shout out, I wouldn't be standing up here at the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for my close friends. Actually, Matt Keckley and I were just talking about it. Matt brought up the point of exactly what I'm going to reiterate. There was a group of guys in Myrtle Beach, and we did push each other, and we fed off each other. And for some reason, we just kept doing it. And those guys are Billy and Tommy Rainwater, Wade Smith, Robert Hurt, John Bailey, Steve Bailey, Dezo, definitely Ted Watts, Timmy Holt, Danny West, and Mark Allison. Mark Allison has been there the whole time for us. He helped me with my O'Neill sponsorship, with a wetsuit sponsorship. Just a big shout out to him. I'd like to thank my beautiful wife Susan for 25 years supporting me. And the biggest shout out tonight is I would not be here if it wasn't for Matt Keckley nominating me. Thank you, Matt. I'm going to put the give first. All right? Where do I do it? Right here, you good. Hang on, let me get these old man glasses on.
Yeah, David